that, yeah, he gets the microphone. He's kind of better with it than I am.
No.
You're taking the microphone. I'm not going to steal Michael Bell's.
We'll share.
I think some of the anecdotes is a little bit closer. There you go. I think that works.
I saw Michael Bell on the Virginian on camera as I was standing naked in the YMCA in Hollywood.
No, you're never naked. You were wearing the pants.
And I thought, wow, what a fabulous cowboy. Wait a minute, that's Michael Bell.
Yeah, well, that's before only my voice counted.
So, because I know him as a man who carried a small African purse and did this with both his hands. There it is. And I didn't know what this was. I would never been in a church choir, and I was never a rock and roll singer. I learned so much.
You know, it's funny because someone once asked me what this was. Now, it's obvious, right? It's hanging out here. I said, it's my colostomy bag. Now, it wouldn't be out here if I said, here, tuna, you hear it? It's silly. Okay, come on, talk to us, folks.
All right, so I guess starting with you, Bill. How did you get involved with G.I. Joe?
I stood in line for an hour and a half at Wally Burr Studios on Going to West.
Wait, Wally's here tonight, right?
Wally is here. Over there, Wally Burr, ladies and gentlemen. And Wally said there were about 140 actors who were lining up to get jobs for G.I. Joe. I was the youngest tank commander in World War II, so I don't want to hear any of your acting bullshit. Let's go, take one. And they had given us wonderful little drawings. They had done the animation for this for G.I. Joe. Of our characters, and casting against type. I was given Flint with his large pectoral muscles and a black Korean. And Wally, one by one, made us the men and women that we are today. All of us got in, well, 72 degrees going on. Quit that FM crap, you yelled at me once. And
Yell at you again!
that was my experience.
Nice. Buzz and Flint, how did you guys get involved as writers?
Well, I ended up getting involved because I spent 6 years in the military before I came out and started writing for television. And I had at least some idea of how a military unit functioned, the rank system, military etiquette, things like this. And the first miniseries, while Ron Friedman did a great job writing it and whatnot, there were a couple of things that weren't quite accurate, like jets swooping down and slicing tanks in half. And Steve Gerber, who was the story editor on G.I. Joe, he asked me about some of the pointers on military protocol, things like this. And then he brought me on as a staff writer, and then as an assistant story editor, and then I ended up story editing the second season.
Nice. Flint?
Oh, yeah, well, actually I had a more embarrassing origin story on G.I. Joe, and that was, I had an epic fail at Lucasfilm doing a show called Droids. And I crawled back I kind of like hobbled back to L.A., and Steve Gerber called me up and said, hey, I'm working on this really great new show, like, you can hit people with real fists, because, we'd done Saturday morning, you couldn't do that. And, I'm in. So I was kind of ghost story editing for Steve, and the guys at Sunbow, Jay and Joe and Tom, Jay McCall and Joe McCall and Tom Griffin, called up one day and said, hey, we named your character after you, so you have to come work for us. And that's probably a big lie, but I fell for it. And so, I started, went on staff as a producer, and kind of just stuck around for the duration of Sunbow.
Yeah. Oh, well, I got it the old-fashioned way. I read for it.
I thought you put it out. It's scary.
But the market that Bill reached out is that Bill and I at the time had the same agent. A wonderful lady named Donnelly Davies, who passed away some years ago. But she had a very small voiceover agency. We were far from the big time. But somehow she met Wally, and Wally was generous enough to say, listen, I'll have some of your people over to read. And so even though we weren't with the biggest agent in the town, we got in there because of Wally's generosity. So.
I gotta go up here and keep these guys straight. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, let's get Wally.
How are you?
You gotta come out of your shell, Wally.
Funny, it's the first time I've ever seen Wally actually with the microphone in his hand. He's usually on the other side of the business.
There's a button you push in the control room called a talkback button. I have a callus here. I'll let you know when I'm off mic, God, good to see you. Good to see you. I hunted around in the lobby out there, and I wanted to get an autograph from you.
I'll give you a later. Just have to give money to Serenity Rescue Day. You gotta give them to my cat rescue.
All right.
Okay. You?
I finished.
You finished?
Yeah, now it's time to you, Mike.
You've completed your assignment. Don't say you're finished. That's a scary word for actors. Okay, I was, interestingly enough, I was in the Army. I was overseas in Augusta, Georgia. And I was a grunt. I was a Spec 4 and then a private, whatever. And when I got an opportunity to do this show, I could draw upon a couple of things, but interestingly enough, most of my character came out of Wally pushing me in that direction. As you can tell, my voice is not, it's a nice, it's a warm voice, but as Joe had, some of this area over here. So Wally was a taskmaster, and really made sure that everybody sounded macho, even the girls.
I'm going to say something. You don't have to be a taskmaster with Mike. Mike is one of the quickest reads that I have ever worked with. He'll take a look at the script, and next to Orson Welles, he can grab the character and say, I know what it needs better than anyone I read. I'm serious about it.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes the fast reader No, I'll finish it. Sometimes the fast reader is a very lousy actor, too. Didn't most of us get away with that.
Okay, good. It's Wally's turn. Good, talk.
No, I'm not even supposed to be up here. I have a script that's 17 pages long. I'm going to do between the two shows. And,
Wait a minute, you're doing shows without us?
yes.
Guys.
Who needs actors?
Okay, imagine you're going to run this and you're going to ask people to ask questions out there?
Well, I think this is just more of the preliminary introduction, and then after Transformers, they'll have a more thorough
Okay.
expansion.
Neil's going to say something.
I'm just curious how many people up here ever even saw the G.I. Joe movie.
Talk a little bit about how that got out of the theatrical distribution.
I wonder if Don Johnson saw the G.I. Joe movie. Because if he did, he'd give up his job.
This may be the only second public showing of the G.I. Joe movie, because the original, the summer it was supposed to come out, the distributorship deal was with Dino De Laurentiis, and that fell through. There was a dispute over how many shows they were supposed to provide a weekend, and so Sunbow withdrew distribution rights from Dino De Laurentiis, where Dino dumped us one way or the other, depending upon whose version.
Dino dumped us.
Yeah. But anyway, we weren't going to have the film shown theatrically at all, and I managed to wrangle a screening at the San Diego Comic-Con that year. We ended up hijacking a theater on the outskirts of town and busing people up there, telling them we were going to take them to, like, a Batman exhibit or something like that. And we snuck them up to see the G.I. Joe movie. I just hope this time they get the reels in the right order. They switched two of the reels in the middle of the film, and I kept thinking, I don't recall writing it this way.
Also, as I recall, so, I don't know whether it wasn't the movie, but I think it was probably one of the shows where either you were on, Bill was on, characters on Flint, and it was my voice, or I was on, it was your voice. And they mixed our voices up with separate characters. And I said, guys, I'm so much like him. I've worked too much with him, I'm beginning to imitate him.
Wally worked us so hard that we had hormonal changes. So
Mine or yours?
What about the time that Kasem walked off? Now, I think somebody here is responsible for the line that
he didn't really walk off. Okay, so what happened was, this was right after, for people who weren't around in the 80s, it was right after Muammar Gaddafi had tried to shoot down a couple of our jets. And so we decided we'd set an episode in Libya. We couldn't call it Libya. I mean, I don't know, with covering a suit or what. But anyway, so we named this country Carbamia. And somebody posted a picture of Carbamia, the sign of Carbamia on my Facebook page. And Kasem got really upset because his character's name was Abdul. And so he threw a tirade with Joe and Tom, who had minimal sympathy. And that was it. And I can't remember when he was trying to get me fired or whatever, you know, but yeah, something so bad.
That wouldn't happen today. Today, that never would happen today.
Yeah, well, nothing bad will happen to Muammar Gaddafi, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Is it, I'm addressing this to the writers. I thought that the G.I. Joe show was put together from 5 of the opening episodes that were used every fall in order to get interest in the series, to heat it up, wasn't it? They were 5 episodes special.
Oh, no, but the movie was, that was its own deal, Buzz, right?
Yeah, the movie was its own deal.
Yeah, it wasn't a miniseries slap.
Well, I directed it, but I have no recollection of that at all.
Well, it was a feature.
This is how much you recollect.
It was then chopped up into a miniseries that fit into the. I'm trying to remember. It was the end of the second season, not the beginning of it. Maybe it was special for the third season. It went from a original theatrical film to a miniseries. I remember that.
Yeah, because, I mean, what's funny is, you know, it was always, can you guys hear me? It was always kind of a porous border between G.I. Joe and Transformers and kind of miniseries and movies and all that. I mean, like, everything I didn't get into the movie, I sort of put into the miniseries at the beginning of the third part of third season of Transformers. So you can kind of look at that and do just kind of Transformer archaeology. You can see what was probably in the movie script at one point. And, like, they cut it out, and I decided, well, I still like that scene, so I'm going to put it back. You know, so it was pretty porous border.
I have a question. You guys, did they need your permission, the on-camera television series, the comedy community, to do that takeoff on G.I. Joe?
No, I think it's parody. I think that's parody. It's parody. It's, you know, as long as they're not making any money on the actual character, you have a lot of liberty with parody.
Yeah.
And why would Hasbro possibly sue? It was great publicity, you know.
Did everybody see that? The community?
Well, you know what's really funny is on YouTube, if you look at the public service announcements, like kind of the equivalent of KP for writers on Transformers and G.I. Joe was to have to write a public service announcement because we were sort of doing penance to all these, you know, children's action groups. And there's very funny rewrites of them on YouTube.
Can anybody remember the line for those, what they called, they weren't PSAs, they were little brownie points they were trying to make for the producing company.
Knowing is half the
They
battle.
were structured as public service announcements. And
Yeah.
somebody got it? Knowing is half the battle.
Just like the red lasers, you know.
Another silly one was, he was one in Super Friends, one of the twins who could turn, did you turn into water or, oh God, yeah.
I met Liberty, who was Jenna. I always got to be a bird or an animal, and I was always a bucket of ice.
Yeah, you were water.
I was water, and I said, how many things can I possibly be? An icicle, a bucket of ice, snot. I mean, what?
Wonder Woman's bath?
Yeah, absolutely. This was such a strange character to play, but what the heck? It went, and then people went for it, and I kept pleading, maybe even Jello. Can I play Jello once? Just something different than just water. But hey, I'm uninvited. Listen, I got to do Bleak, the monkeys. I got to play.
I was going to recreate one of the public service announcements for those. Hey, it's your old pal Shipwreck. Next time you get arrested for
drunk and disorderly, use somebody else's ID. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
You know, what's funny is the thing that nobody, I mean, I wish we had the mic, you know, the tape running while these guys were warming up. I mean, it was funnier than anything we wrote. You know, I mean, it was also different rating, but.
I mean, we used to love, I always tried to get into the recording sessions when Scatman was doing voices, because that was always a blast to have him.
Yeah, he told this great story. One day, I mean, because these guys would talk, out on the, while we were waiting, because there's a lot of waiting when you do this stuff. He was telling this great story about, he just worked at Bronco Billy or one of those Clint Eastwood, one of the monkey films or something. But anyway, and he was talking about how Clint Eastwood, he got out, read his line, Clint Eastwood said, "Oh, it's good, Scatman." He said, "You don't want me to do any more takes?" And Eastwood looked around from behind the camera and he said, "I'm not Stanley Kubrick." Scatman had done The Shining and had like do some walk across. Or he's telling us
87 shots.
Yeah.
In walking
across the snow, and then they had to reset the snow after every shot.
One of the reasons they did the PSAs was because parent groups were freaking out that people were going to die in massive numbers in this war cartoon on Saturday morning before their innocent little children. And one of the first days that we gathered at Wally's studio to record, the script girl, classic Hollywood script girl, young girl in her 20s, from a USC intern or whatever, passing out the script, she says, "Oh, I'm supposed to tell you, nobody dies in G.I. Joe." And we sort of looked at each other, "This is a war cartoon. How are we going to do that?" "Well, the animators are going to have all the enemies just parachute out over the horizon." So, and you can see that in the movie, I think, and you also see in the episodes that when Cobra gets shot down, when Joe's get shot down, you don't see their skulls split on the boulder. You just see the
Well, that's one of the things that I brought in when I was doing story editing. I insisted in every show that I wrote that somebody got seriously hurt, because I didn't want it just to be a show where people are firing guns and fighting and there are no serious consequences. But I would also try to work in a line of dialogue, something to the effect of, well, we suffered 17% casualties or 22% casualties, because I knew that meant dead and injured. And Sunbow and Hasbro never figured out casualties referred to both living and injured.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they really cared. I mean, I never got an irrational note from them. I mean, yes, we couldn't kill people. We only had a few disembowelings, but you couldn't kill people. But remember, we used to have the parachutes come out when planes got shot down.
Yeah.
And then we'd run out of time, we cut out the parachutes opening.
They did the same thing with Superman, which is a series that I cast originally and got to play by Luthor. And in Superman, they said, you can't, and they came down, they said, okay, he can't crash through the building, he can't crash through the window, he can't destroy any property. So you had to make sure the window was open when Superman came in. Open the window, get that Superman! It was so silly, it was so restricted. Of course, nowadays you have CNN, you can see anything you want to see.
So we're going to wrap it up here, but building up to the movies, were there any special story arcs or anything that you tried to do to incorporate into them, or you just wanted to have it be as separate from the series as possible?
Well, I mean, the Transformer movie was really a piece that went, between in between season 2 and season 3, and it was partly just to have a movie and have something really big, and it was partly to introduce I guess it was the '86 product line, and that meant we had to deal with retire the '85 product line, and so what's really funny, there exists.
You killed it.
There exists a version of the script that Jay McCall and I wrote after we had a first draft. I think it was from Ron Friedman, but it's unclear. I mean, I wasn't there when it was written. But anyway, we had a first draft, and Jay and I went into my apartment and just kind of started over. and wrote a script in a week called The Secret of Cybertron, which I'd still love to see get made in some alternate universe. But anyway, what we did is we just decided to take care of it all at once. And we had, because we didn't know anybody was really going to be upset, you know, when we killed the characters. And so we had the Autobots, had this desperate charge of the Light Brigade, like the entire 85 product line just got slaughtered. I mean, you know, they were fighting their way into the core of Cybertron because the Autobot Matrix was supposed to, you know, basically unlock Cybertron, which was a giant transformer. This movie never got made. But anyway, yeah, we would just, you know, get slaughtered. And I can only imagine what the reaction would have been in the trauma if we'd actually ever made that.
Is that Hasbro?
Well, no, Jay McCall and I just wrote it. No, it wasn't program practice reasons or anything that they didn't do it. We just, you know, they were, you know, we had to get rid of the line. And we took it literally that, like, we had to explain how all the people who were going to show up in the third season died. So it was just, I mean, you know, it was really something.
I have to say, very funny. We were in the midst of doing G.I. Joe, and my buddy E.J. Ward played Scarlet. And she's in London now doing her own show, which is great. So one day she said to me, "Gee, I have less lines this week. I've been doing a lot of stuff, and most of my lines, I maybe have one line this week. I have a line and a half." I said, "Your doll isn't selling." I made that up, but I didn't realize it was the case.
Scatman Crothers was mentioned. He passed away in the middle of the series. He did the voice of Jazz in the feature. But, yeah. And I said, I had worked with him. Does anybody remember Hong Kong Fooey? Good memories.
Yours.
Anyway, I had worked with him a lot. He played this detective, crazy detective. And then somebody mentioned, I don't think I thought of it myself, but he played part of Jazz because Scatman was known as a musician. So when he did pass away, I had worked with him so much on both Jazz and Hong Kong Fooey. I said, I can do that. And I didn't reveal this because I thought somebody might say, what the hell are you doing? Why did you recast it and get a black gentleman to do that? I would have had to go through a whole casting process, and besides, it was just faster to do it myself. And I did 3 shows, and nobody, until about a year ago when I mentioned it, knew that I did Scatman Crothers.
You kind of look like him.
Get out. You said you look like him. Sure.
I
We thought it was you and both, yeah.
Yes, I worked with Scat. We did, of all things, unbelievable. Snow White meets the Harlem Globetrotters. And when that came, we also this can't be serious. This Hanna-Barbera project. Snow White, what's going to happen? Snow White meets the Harlem Globetrotters, and Scatman was on it. I can't tell you what took place during those sessions without offending just about everybody in this room. But I can say that it was a feast because Joe Barbera had hired 3 actors, one of which, other than Scatman, one of which was an actor, Robert O'Kee, who's wonderful, and 2 other guys I'd never seen in my life, and no one knew. And after about maybe about 2 pages in, Scatman turned to me and said, "Where do you get these guys?" And I said, I don't know. And I said, I have a feeling they held Joe up in the back room or a closet somewhere or in an alley. And he said, "Look, I'll put you in the show if you don't rob me." It was so bad. It was so terrible. Lines like, "Watch out for the wicked witch" was, "Watch out for the wicked witch." And we went, and Scatman immediately came unhinged. And Stu Gillen came unhinged. And he turned on these 2 guys. And I thought, okay, I took Lucy Taylor, who was Snow White. I said, I think we better get out of this room because I feel a fight coming on. It was one of the funniest sessions we'd ever been through. And Scatman, of course, led the whole thing. I had such respect for him because he wasn't afraid of saying what was on his mind. And what a super talent, what a funny guy, and terribly missed when he passed. We all said, wow, that's really a loss for everybody. But one of these days, I will tell that story without holding back, but it was an enormously funny session because of Scat.
but we'll have the guests back here up after the Transformer movie, and we'll continue that.